Welcome back to the Football Fitness Federation podcast. This is episode 76. I am joined today by Andy Boles, the head of sports science at Motherwell. Andy, how are you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Ben. Yourself?
I'm good, thank you, mate. Very strange times at the moment with the isolation, the lockdown, everything going on. So, we were going to go into your current situation in a little bit after going into your background, but let's start on that. What's the current situation up there?
Well, obviously, the same as around the country. The games have been postponed. At the moment, we don't know whether the season's going to get carried on or finished. It's all a bit limbo at the moment. So we're just doing what we can to try and give the players some ideas to keep themselves topped up.
And in terms of home programmes and that, what have been some challenges that you've faced with the players? Is there anything that's cropped up, any compliance issues or anything like that, or the lads just cracked on with it?
No, we're really lucky here. To be fair, we've not had any problems at all. What we've done with our programme this year and over the past few kind of pre-seasons really is made like an app on their phone. So it's like we use Google Sites to write all the programmes and make little drills and stuff like that, and then we send it out the link. They can add it to their home screen so it becomes an app. So players quite like it. It's quite kind of user friendly. They don't lose it. We used to send programs out maybe a PDF or on paper, but the players will lose it right away. So they quite like it. So we've put some different conditioning sessions. We've got some endurance sessions, some power sessions, some high intensity sessions, and for each one of those we've got like a road option, so they can go out and run the road, pitch based stuff, treadmill based stuff, and track based stuff. So everybody will have different things available to them where they are just now, so they've always got different options to do and stuff.
Yeah, I think it's quite a fascinating time for coaches, isn't it? Because we've never been in this position before, and hopefully we're never in it again. But it really, you have to become quite creative with it, don't you? And innovative with the way you get your players to stay on track, essentially.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things we've done is we've put different challenges in there. So we've put on like a 5K challenge, just how quick can you run a 5K, and kept kind of group chat alive with people, more kind of with the younger groups. You know, what's the best 5K time using Strava or Map My Run, and just take a screenshot and put it in. We done similar ideas like 30K, what's the best time, that sort of stuff. 30 minute. Run as far as you can. All these wee ideas. It just keeps a little kind of bit of buy-in with the players. But I suppose technically at the moment that some of the staff and players have been on furlough, so you can't exactly say you've got to do X, Y, and Z, because that could really be seen as them working. So what we're really doing is just putting out some ideas there and saying, here's some things you might want to try at home while you're off, rather than giving an exact schedule, because I suppose technically that's them working, but so we don't want to do that.
Yeah, definitely. And we have skipped your background there, mate. So do you want to take us back? I've mentioned your current role at Motherwell, head of sports science, but what's your journey been so far? Where did you start, and what takes you up to that current role?
Okay, so always just loved sport, particularly football. So knew I just wanted to try and work in that industry. Didn't particularly know exactly what I wanted to do, or like in terms of in there. So spoke to a few people when I was at school, and a few people at uni, decided sports science was going to give that a route. So went to Glasgow Uni 2003, graduated 2007, physiology and sports science, and went straight on to do a master's degree in Edinburgh in strength and conditioning. Pretty much because I couldn't get a job right away. There was no job, so I thought it was a good time to go and do a degree. At that time I was working part-time. I'd managed to get a wee bit of a gig at Hamilton Accies, kind of local team, Motherwell rivals. So started across the river. When I was at uni, I did a lot of volunteering, like as much volunteering as I could, to go out and do testing and training with different kind of wee groups to get as much experience as possible. Did pretty much a year at Hamilton Accies, a year solid with the academy, not getting paid, and managed to kind of convince them that we might be able to grow it a little bit if we started doing wee circuits and wee speed sessions and that sort of stuff. So I managed to get a wee bit of a part-time role there. 2010, I got a job with Institute of Sport that was part-time as well. So between the kind of two of them, I was almost kind of full-time. working with different sports, round about the kind of Delhi Commonwealth Games, Institute of Sport. After that, I went full time at Hamilton, 2011, just as the head of sports science, working with the first team and the kind of reserves academy. And did that for about a year and a half, and then managed to get the job at Middlesbrough. So that was 2012, moved down there, was lead S&C coach. 3 brilliant years down there, really enjoyed it. Great group of staff, learned so much, brilliant players, just a great club. I know you've had ads on Adam Kerr from the podcast before. He's a great guy, and you had the meeting with Johnny Madden as well. So still keeping great contact with them. But 2000, about kind of 3 years in, 2015, I had the opportunity to move home. My missus and myself were kind of just looking for an opportunity to move home. So the job at Motherwell came up, and decided to move back home. It's kind of a local club, so it's perfect for me, and I've been here ever since.
Awesome. So who was the gaffer up at Borough when you were there then?
It was Tony Mowbray was there to start with, and then it was Aitor Karanka.
Oh yeah. I was just trying to think of the time period. Awesome. And then obviously crossing over with Ads and Johnny. Yeah. Ads has been on the podcast and done a meeting as well, and Johnny's done the meeting too.
That's right.
In terms of the podcast today, we're going to dive into integrating sports science into the football department and get your thoughts on that. So I know you've got loads of different views on this and different ways that we can talk about it. So what I wanted to start with was when we're talking about integrating into the football department, let's start with in terms of like pitch work, in terms of stuff that we're doing generally outside, and then we'll develop it into like strength and gym stuff as well. So do you want to just give your overall thoughts on it to start with, and then we'll dive in a little bit more specifically?
Yeah, so I'm really lucky, first of all, just now, that I'm kind of part of the coaching staff, not just as a sports scientist, but I've worked in different situations at different clubs, but I'm quite close with all the coaching staff we've got at the moment. The managers got a really good group, a close group, in terms of, everybody's got an opinion, and you're able to go and speak to that. So it's not just a case of the manager saying, I'm going to do this today, just you go and take the warm-up. We have a kind of roundtable meeting every morning. We discuss what we're going to do. So I'm involved in that. Obviously, it's the manager's ideas, what he's wanting to do, but it's taking a bit of time to build up a relationship with the manager. And in terms of actually got a seat at the table, you can influence stuff. So it's just trying to chip away at all the little things. For example, the possession drills that we do, the conditioning work we do, the games, trying to make sure we follow roughly a kind of periodised plan, so we're trying to hit certain things on certain days, and the coaching staff have been brilliant, to be fair, in terms of bringing all these ideas in and really challenging themselves to think about different drills we're doing on different days and make sure we're hitting certain physical parameters, so that we're trying to do as much stuff, conditioning within the training as we can.
And I know with that, in terms of periodisation, do you want to just give a general sort of breakdown of the style of play, the general sort of game model that you guys use, and how that sort of relates into your practice and what you implement with the players as well?
Yeah. Okay. So we kind of introduced a kind of an adapted tactical periodisation model about I'd say maybe 2.5 years ago. We'd had a change of manager. We'd had quite a few injuries the year before, so I kind of floated this idea that when I was at Middlesbrough, I was exposed to it from Aitor Karanka, just in terms of having like a strength day, an endurance day, different like physical targets to hit on different days. So we've kind of adapted that as we're going on. So at the moment we are obviously playing a Saturday, just as a rough kind of week to explain roughly how we work it. Off a Sunday. Monday will be like a recovery session for the boys that played, and a top-up session, kind of general session for the boys that didn't. Tuesday will be our strength type day, so we're like kind of 2v2s, lots of accelerations, lots of decelerations. Wednesdays are bigger areas, like we usually do 11v11 on a Wednesday. Thursday a day off, and Friday we just do kind of like tactical stuff and a few small serie games. So that's generally how we kind of periodise our week. The Sorry, what else did you ask again?
No, just a general sort of breakdown of your style of play.
Yeah. So the last kind of year or so, we've kind of brought in like a really high intensity pressing style of play. So that's been a challenge to condition the players for that. And I think probably the most successful part of our training we've altered to do that is to try and make a lot of the conditioning work as game related as possible. So we do every week. We do probably maybe 1 or 2 runs without the balls, probably as much a mental conditioning element as it is a physical one. But the coaching staff have got to take a lot of credit, I think, for not just doing like a 2v2 for talking sake, but trying to replicate a 2v2 for like our central midfield players in terms of the positions that we're finding ourselves in, and replicating drills to replicate what's actually happening on a match day, like a high intensity running for our fullbacks and our wingers, trying to do them within pattern type exercises so that there's a huge element of decision making in the conditioning work as well. And I think that's probably something that we don't think about a lot as practitioners, because you don't really measure it. You can't measure it on GPS or that sort of stuff, but you can definitely see a difference between if you just do playing high intensity running or if you do it with the ball where they've got to make a decision. I definitely see a lot more transfer, which makes, I know it sounds really obvious, but we've been in situations where we don't necessarily do that, and I think it definitely helps to do it.
And that ties in with like the integration, doesn't it, between sports science and the coaching side as well, because coaches will have different views on what that player should look like in certain positions, and it obviously then, if you can integrate with someone like yourself and apply the sports science, the principles of sports science, then that's when you can really tweak the training and get the most out of it and make it applicable to your style of play, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. But one of the things I think the coaching staff and the manager from here, they're really big on using data where we can. So, we've got kind of like norms for what we'd expect certain positions to happen for a, it's not exactly, we don't say a fullback has to do X this every single week, but we've got a rough idea. And the manager's got a thing where he'll say to the players that are not playing, like, don't come and chat my door if you get an opportunity and you're not covering X amount of distance, you're not making the sort of runs that we want you to make, tactically making the decisions we make. So it's as integrated into the game model as all your physical attributes as it is the tactical stuff, which is a help for me as a practitioner, because whenever you try to implement any of these sort of, whether it's drills or whether it's the players thinking about the GPS data, it carries a lot of weight because the manager's referring to it on a regular basis. So that certainly helps.
And then if we talk in terms of gym strength work as well, what's the general sort of approach in integrating, like if we're basing it on integrating sports science into football, how are you talking to coaches about integrating that side?
Okay, so yeah, in terms of gym work, so with our first team boys, we do gym twice a week. We do one whole body strength session and one possibly upper body, depending on what the load's been. It might be another whole body. And so in terms of integrating it, what we do is take a lot of the testing data from pitch-based tests, fitness tests, from GPS data from games, etc. And we'll integrate that into the programme. So we've got all the testing data at the side of the programme. We can constantly refer to why you're doing a certain exercise. And again, I know it sounds really, really simple, but it's something that I probably didn't do for maybe a year or so, and started to see a little bit of a drop off in players really pushing themselves or sticking to certain exercises. So, for example, if a player's got we've got like a flywheel K-box, and we put it in some players' programs as a knee dominant exercise, like a squat or a rear foot elevate split squat. We did a little kind of in-house research project a couple of years ago, that versus trap bar deadlift, and we found an improvement in 5 meter speed on the flywheel compared to the trap bar. So just be things like that. We might have somebody's data saying, well, your 5 meter times this, we've put this in your program because we've found that when we looked at this a couple of years ago, this is the best way of improving it. Wee simple things like that have a massive effect on players. Players don't really care what exercise they're doing. In my experience, they just want to get better on the pitch. So everything we're doing, we're trying to relate to this will make you a better player because of X or because of Y, etc.
I think that's a great point, because I think a lot of the top programs that you see done really well are just the basics done well and also presented well, aren't they? And we were down recently at Colchester, down with those lads down there, Kamal and Perry, and they showed some video of the gym sessions they were doing. And obviously, it's all exercises that other clubs do in the gym. Like, we were all doing similar stuff. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. But the way that the intent that the players were executing the exercises, but also the way that the coaches were talking about it and setting challenges like you're talking about there, and teaching players the sort of methodologies behind those exercises. That's the important bit, isn't it? That's where, like you say, players don't care what exercises they do. They just want to get better. So it's your job then to implement those well and give the reasons and the rationales behind it.
Yeah. I think the key word you said there, I suppose that's what we're trying to get across, is the intent. Players do the programs like they mean it. You know, they train properly. They don't just go through the motions, which is really common. And I said to you before, we had a quick chat off air, sometimes it's not the player's fault. I mean, we just assume that the players, sometimes because we do this as practitioners all the time, you know, we know that doing X in the gym will make them stronger, or doing this, and in the back of your head, you know it's going to make them a better practitioner, but the players haven't had that same journey. So they might not have the same buy-in unless we've selling it to them on a regular basis. And when you do that, you get that intent, you get that buy-in, you know, you really get, I think you get more out of programs.
And in terms of like educating players, like what's the sort of detail that you go into? Because obviously we don't need to take them through a master's or anything like that. I don't need to be at that level, but and some players might. Like, I know I spoke with Yulma Wenny on the podcast, and when he was playing, he was very interested in that side, and he's ended up going into sports science. So there are obviously players out there that are very interested. But if we take the majority, they just want to know what to do and what and how it's going to improve them, don't they? So how would you go about educating players and providing that information?
I think that becomes with like experience. You need to know your players really well, the differences between them, and there's huge differences between different types of players. I know we've got a player just now who's probably going to go into kind of PT and CrossFit when he retires, possibly. I've had another player before at Middlesbrough who's now doing like S&C, and you could tell these guys are a real interest just because they were asking questions. They want to know detail. We've also got other guys who literally could not care. They just want to know, how's this going to make them faster? Is it going to make them faster? They might not even care how. Is this going to make me faster? Is this going to make me more robust? So it might just be a little sentence. It might just be, you know, a little word while they're doing an exercise, or with somebody else it might be taking a bit more time to explain the detail. You just got to know your players and know who's going to want more detail, who's not going to want more detail, and just constantly reinforcing that. I think one of the things, or one of the traps I've fallen into before as well, is like thinking once you've told somebody once, that should be fine. But this is just a constant battle. It's like a chipping away every single day, every time you're doing something. And it can be something like, okay, when they're doing something in the gym, they might be doing a certain core exercise or upper body exercise for stability. And then you see something happening in training that's been a positive, and it's maybe when they drill, maybe they've done something well in training, held a player off or whatever, and you can see how it's related to the drill you've done. And when there's a wee break in between training, it can just be saying to the player, can you see how that relates to what we're doing in the gym? That can marries up some of the two situations, and with some players that can just be the wee trigger that says, right, okay, no, I can see that okay, the next time they do it, it's in their head, and that's just constant chip away. That's not once you've said it and that's it away.
I suppose that comes a little bit into learning styles as well, doesn't it? Because if you're showing someone, like a lot of people are visual learners, like if they see that, they can relate to it. We can talk about it until we're blue in the face, can't we? But if they can see something, or even if it's another player, like they've been working on X and that's improved Y, then that gives you that rationale behind what you're saying, doesn't it? And it might sink in a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. The other thing as well that's important, I think, is to speak to the players and ask them what they want to do. We try to give the players quite a lot of ownership in terms of, we'll write them a programme. We've got a kind of set style that's kind of loosely based on some of the stuff that Mike Boyle's done before, in terms of knee dominant, hip dominant, frontal play, and push pulls, etc. Just slightly based on that, and so we've got certain exercises that we do with certain players, and every time we're always asking, how do you feel when you do that exercise? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Because there's loads of other ways we can do this, like a knee dominant exercise. There's loads of ways we can do a horizontal push. We've got to find what you like. If the player's saying, no, I'm not sure, I don't like it because of this, we've kind of got to change it, because it's about the player, isn't it? It's about trying to find what fits the player. And yeah, I think giving them a little bit of ownership in the programme definitely gets a little bit more buy-in too.
I think that ties in with, I think I spoke to Shane Murphy about this in terms of like flexibility within your programming, and yeah, you're right, giving that player ownership. And we said about this time is actually a testing period for players because they've not got coaches with them every step of the way. So it is testing like the knowledge and what they're going to be doing. And you see, we spoke a little bit before we started recording, you see some great stuff of players doing on, I know it's probably not an accurate representation, but on social media. But then on the flip side of things, you see a few things when you're like, has your coach told you that? Or is that just something that you've just seen and you just fancy to go out? Like, is that going to improve you as a player? I think this time is really important. But in terms of what you were talking about there, like knowing your player, if a player doesn't quite feel the exercise or they don't like that exercise, are they gonna go put that intent into the exercise? Is the intensity going to be right? Probably not. So can you as a practitioner, have you got the flexibility in the coaching toolbox to adapt and change it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's where some kind of S&C coaches that I've worked with before have maybe struggled in terms of the player or the athlete, whoever they're working with, whatever sport, has to fit into their programme, and it's got to be the other way around. I know that Shane spoke about that in your podcast, it was excellent. It's got to be the other way around. You've got to fit it around the player. People are so different in terms of their body makeup, their mobility, their strengths, their weaknesses. So we've got to find ways to adapt that to the player.
I know it's quite a weird period at the moment because we don't know when the season's going to kick back in or when next season's starting. But in terms of looking forward to next season, working with the players and making this program even more effective from all the stuff that you spoke about already, what are your general ideas on how to take it forward?
Okay, so one of the things that we've done, just to give a wee bit of background of how we've come to this idea, one of the things that's helped us integrate as well is how we report our GPS, I think, from our training data. So we have been kind of working along a kind of multimodal approach that I've seen, I think Jack Sharkey had presented on recently as well. To be honest, I hadn't seen that. We've been doing it for about 2 or 3 years, just stumbled across his presentation using slightly different metrics. It was Johnny Madden and Adam Kerr had come up with the idea before. So basically what we do is we take 6 metrics: total distance, high intensity distance, meters per minute, accel decels, top speed, and number of sprints. That's 7, I think, maybe 7 metrics. And we've got like a data from a game. So the average of those makes up 100%. And I can send you over a graphic. Hopefully, if people are watching this on YouTube, they can see a couple of graphics in terms of how we come about that. But we try to come up with one number out of all those metrics. So we call it a session score. So if we do exactly 50% of everything, total distance, high intensity distance, sprint distance, etc., it will come out as 50%. If we do 60, but then again, those metrics there can be different ways we come up with 60% or a 50%. Then we give the coaches and the players one number, but alongside it, there's all the data next to it as well. So they can see how it's a 60%. We can be a 60% on a Tuesday because we do 5K, but we do 70% or 80% of accelerations and decelerations we do in a game. Whereas on a Wednesday, we can be 60% because we cover higher distance metrics, but less accelerations and decelerations. So the coaches, they get one number, it's simple, but they can also then, it's not like player load where you've got like a number and you're like, how did we come up with that number? I've not got a clue. It's just a total arbitrary number that doesn't really mean anything. As much as if you kind of understand it, it might be helpful, but it's coaches we're trying to influence here and players, it's not other sports scientists. So they can look at this number and they can go, okay, that was what we expected. It came from acceleration's been high, deceleration's been high. And that's been really successful at our club in terms of buy-in from the players and the coaching staff. They actually look at the data and go, okay, I can get my head around that, rather than when I first started bringing in GPS and we were giving it to the coaches with like numbers. So you give a report to the coach and he'd be like, is that good? We're like, if you don't know it's good or it's bad, then it's pointless. The coach needs to kind of understand what's, kind of what the rationale is. Okay, did we want 60%? Yeah, we got it. Did we get it because we wanted all the accelerations or not? And our coaches have been brilliant at bringing on, looking at that and taking that on board, and the players too. The players all want to know the data. So we thought about getting back to strength work, but how else can we apply this to other areas of the programme? One of the things we're looking at doing from next season was actually one of the coaches' ideas was, can we take that session score and make almost like a Motherwell game model score in terms of, okay, so the coaches want to do a lot of high pressing. So can we get some physical testing data that might replicate that? So, for example, we're looking at putting some sort of maybe like 45-second anaerobic capacity test in, some sort of aerobic test that's easily reproducible, even just something like a 1500 metre time. Like some sort of speed strength test. So we might do like a trap bar deadlift and like do it for like at their body weight. So I weigh 70k. I'm 70k in the bar. How fast can I move that? And just put that in, because it's quite simple. Everybody can kind of do it. It's not like a max squat test, but I don't want some of my players doing that. And then maybe some sort of other things, maybe like a 5 metre sprint time, and even maybe some sort of thing where the coach can rate them out of 10 about how well they know the tactical understanding of the position. And then putting that in the programmes, testing all the players and coming up with some sort of number like that, so you can see, okay, I'm a 70%, but it's because I am very like quick, explosive, powerful. The things that are letting me down are my aerobic stuff. So it kind of gives them a little bit, okay, here's where I am generally, but this is what's letting me down. Can I then go and focus on those other things and really, obviously we're giving them extra work because we kind of know what they're strong and weak at, but it's giving that ownership to the players so that they can, do the things they're going to do with intent. Because it's been really, that kind of wee session score thing, the full idea behind it is it's not the most scientifically robust system. I'll definitely hold my hands up to that, but it's influencing things so much more than, making sure the p-value is perfect. You know what I mean? These are like humans we're dealing with here, so having some sort of thing that they can really buy into, it's tangible, they can see it, they can understand why it's good and why it's bad, and they can see how that would relate to things on the pitch, then that's having so much more effect. So it was a coach's idea in terms of, actually assistant manager's idea in terms of how can we take that forward into the strength programme. So that's kind of what we're looking to do for next season. I'm interested to hear from anybody if anybody else has done that sort of thing, to see if anybody else has come up with it and what kind of things they did.
Yeah, I'll definitely encourage people to reach out and get in touch if anyone's doing anything similar. I know I was just thinking when you were saying it about Darren Burgess' episode on the podcast, not sure if you heard it, but he talked about his Burjo rating.
Yeah.
I know that's probably not including quite as much science, but that's essentially just experience, isn't it? That's experience of it. And that's going session by session. But this sounds really intriguing in terms of, I know how receptive a lot of players will be to that sort of thing. And it's just, I suppose it's just going to be tweaking it, isn't it, in terms of trying to find that right balance with it. With the, and I don't like necessarily using the word testing, but with the tests that the players go through, what would they do in terms of frequency on that? Would that be something that would be carried out regularly, or what's the idea behind that?
Well, that's kind of one of the reasons we wanted to come up with tests that can be replicated. I mean, I'm thinking we may do this maybe every month, every 6 weeks. So I don't want to be including something like a 30-15 or a yo-yo test, because it kind of scuppers training. You do a test like that, and it's really difficult to then go and put a proper training session on. So it's kind of things we might have to, instead of dedicating a full day to training, say for example on a Tuesday, we might do 5 metre sprint with everybody, just round about the normal training. You know, it might just be instead of coming to me to do a little speed or agility drill, we come in and just run through everybody through their 5 metre sprint test. And then the next day we might do something like, we sometimes do like a 4-minute run on a Wednesday. So like maybe just a 1,000 metre run in between games or in between possessions or whatever. Not always, but you know, we do things like that. So we might even just go with a 1,000 metre run time. Something, or a 4-minute run, cover as much distance as you can, and we'll take the GPS data for how much distance you can run for 4 minutes. But so it's something that we could then just go and do a little bit of training before, do the test, and then go back into normal training. So again, it's not going to be, you know, probably people out there saying, no, that's you can't do that. You've got to make sure all the conditions are correct. You've got to make sure it's always 18 degrees Celsius outside and the grass is the same length and all that. It's not really designed to be that sort of thing. It's designed to be something that's kind of almost real life, and it can just be integrated into training. We don't have to change too many things around about it to try and collect data, because otherwise, I don't know, my experience, sometimes you do testing sessions is you go and do a sprint test and all the players don't max sprint because some of them are scared of maybe pulling a hammy or they just think it's not important. So I've had guys before who definitely are in the top 3, like fastest, because you can just see they're the fastest, but they're in the bottom 5 when you do testing. They just don't, they're not interested when you get to first team level. Some players are just like that. It doesn't make a difference to them. Maybe they're not motivated, I don't know. So it's got to find a way of it not feeling like a testing session to be as real as possible.
I think that's a great point. It's something I spoke about before, and I was talking more about academy players. But when you do like a testing session, it's a different sort of atmosphere, isn't it? Like it's very, I don't know, like clinical, I suppose you'd maybe say, that it's all has to be carried out correctly. And you do just want it to be, and we're talking about integration. We want it to be integrated into the daily practice, essentially, don't we? And really, you want to produce that data to the players at the end and say, like, this is what we need to improve and these are the reasons and these are your scores and all the rest of it. But in the actual session, you don't really want it to be noticed, do you? Like, if you could do a 5 metre sprint test without the players noticing, they're going all out, loads of intent, but they're seeing it as just part of the session, and that's ideal then, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And really, we are interested about how quickly they can run 5 metres on a football pitch, not really in a testing session. That's not really what we're interested in. I know, again, it's not as scientifically robust as saying, okay, they had 2 days rest before it. I think that's just one of the ways of this approach. We're just going to have to accept that there's limitation. And we're always going to have to accept that there's certain limitations on data. That's actually one of the reasons we need to put in a coach's score on how well they tactically understand the situation. Maybe even using the performance analyst in terms of, okay, let's get 10 situations where they're in the right position. How many times within the right position to go and press or whatever we need to do? Because there is guys in here who are definitely not the best pressers at our club, that if we don't include some sort of cognitive kind of understanding mod, they'll be like the best, and that's going to create more problems because they're going to the gaffer's going to be going off his nut at these people that are terrible at their job, but they're going to turn around and say, well, Andy's data says I was really good, so do you know what I mean? So we've got to kind of protect ourselves for that, kind of looking forward a wee bit. There's different elements we've got to include, I think, to make it like a valid score almost.
Yeah, and it's trying to get what you want out of it, isn't it? Which is essentially improved performance on the pitch and getting players to work on the things that they need to work on off the pitch as well. So regardless of how you get to that point, really, as long as that is the end game, that's the main thing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's what we're all here to do. So, and I think between this and the session score and all that sort of stuff with GPS, it's all about buy-in. It's all about getting people really to engage with the data and to try and avoid that question of, is that good? Is this bad? Is that good? They understand it. And I guess with these sort of things, you do maybe lose a little bit of the scientific rigour. But it's not a big game of sports science that we're playing against, like Dundee United or whoever we're playing, or Hibs or Hearts. It's not a game of sports science we're playing against them on Saturday. It's a game of football. So you've just got to realise that that's like a little section, and that it doesn't have to be exactly. If you can be scientifically rigorous but only have like 5% effect, or if you can, look at the bigger picture and have effect on 100% or 90% of the variables, then I think that'll do a more important job. As a coach, it's probably a coach speaking more than a scientist.
No, I agree. I think we spoke time and time again about there being really good scientists out there that don't have the sort of nous about them to put it over to players in the correct way. And you've got to try and find that balance. At the same time, we don't just want an entertainer that can
Yeah,
be mates with players and all the rest of it and have
yeah,
no scientific like background. But there is a real balancing act there, isn't there? You need to find that balance, and I think you're dead right with what you're saying there.
yeah. That's it. There's a balance. That's the key. I mean, if you also coaches are really good. Like good coaches, I think are really good at like looking at what's the perfect scenario and whittling it down to what's actually practical. So, I'm lucky enough to be sat in all the meetings with the coaches and the managers in the morning, so I kind of get a good understanding of what they're wanting, what they're looking for. But at the end of the day, the last thing they always, before they decide on what drill we're doing, the last thing they always decide, okay, what coaching points we're going to put across. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's too much. They're not going to get 5 coaching points, so we need to try and pick 2 of the 3 the best and stick with them. Okay, it's not perfect, but that's what's going to make it stick. And that's not, I think that's probably more of the equivalent of what I'm doing here, whereas other people might say, no, it needs to be perfect. In that case, you might actually end up with less of an effect.
And this whole model is really fascinating for younger players coming through as well. So 18s and like 23s or however the club set up in terms of those younger players. So I know you got some really interesting thoughts about the approach to take with those players and how they're going to transition up into first team.
Yep.
And also, Andy, sorry, just to cut in, your record as well as a club for bringing players through from there as well. So do you want to touch on that first?
Yeah, we've been quite lucky, I suppose. The past few years we've had a few really good players break through and taking place in the first team just now and sold players on to kind of, get guys playing in the Championship in England, guys that I think will probably go on to play in the Premier League in England, guys playing in America and kind of all over really. So when I first came into the club, they hadn't really had a full, real kind of sports science set up before. That was in 2015. So we kind of gradually started to implement a few things. First being diet, especially up here in Scotland. Most people's diet is not kind of what you would expect of an athlete. But again, I always try and sympathise with players because they don't really know what the level is until they've been exposed to it. So we had guys who had played, like when I first came back, guys that played again at a high level, international level and stuff like that, and the guys were always not a problem. Younger players coming through, they think that their mates all go to McDonald's 3 times a week. So if they go once a week, I'm all right. Do you know what I mean? I'm eating better than them, so it must be all right. But you it's a lot of that kind of education of the level you think is here. It's actually, if you want to go and play at a high level, the level you don't really know what it is. It's a lot of education, pushing them consistently. So by doing things like making sure they get their diet constantly right, training hard, trying to train for strength, train their strength, and make sure people know that that's like a 2 or 3 year project. Consistently training strength 2 or 3 times a week, and within the training sessions that the coaches are taking, making players consistently train harder. I was listening to one of the podcasts. I think it was Paul Bauer. And it was at Huddersfield, and he was saying that a lot of the coaches basically saying you can work a lot harder than what a lot of the players think you can, and I completely agree with that. And it's just like gradually taking players there and the education that you can, this is what the level can be if you really, really push yourself. But the key really with that is consistency and constantly pushing players within the gym. Can you lift more? Can you lift that harder, more explosively? What you having for dinner tonight? Constantly asking players, can you cook? What can you cook? One of the things we do with our reserve players once a year is in the WhatsApp group chat is we get them to put a photograph of their dinner on every night for a week. And honestly, you should see some of the things we see. But it's brilliant because like the players they get a bit of banter between each other, but then sometimes with some players, if I'm telling them something, they'll go, right, okay, I'll listen to Andy, he's done that. It might take me to go to one of the coaches to say, look, this guy's motivated miles more by the football side of things than he is by the physical side of things. So can you drop it in, try not to make it obvious? Some players don't like coaches or sports scientists, and they only listen to other players. So a thing like that, if all the other players are slagging them, they might think, do you know what, I probably should do something about this. And one of those dinners they've got to cook themselves. So, and you can usually tell, with a couple of guys screenshot things for like Jamie Oliver's website and stuff like that, and you can just tell. But it's really good bit of engagement. It creates a bit of dialogue for the players. It gets them thinking about their diets, and like out of things like we'll give them targets, like weight gaining targets, and they're quite difficult to achieve, but it's just constantly on at the players every single day. Because I think probably here in Scotland, because we control what they do training wise, the biggest factor that they can influence separately is probably their diet. But we've just consistently been at them. Again, it's not one of those things where before, when I was starting out, I would be like, I'd do a presentation to start the season. You've got to eat 30 grams of protein with every meal. You've got to do this. You've got to do that. Bang, bang, bang. Right, that's it. You know what? I'll speak to you again next year. And then, but it's the more experience I've got, the more I realise it is just every single day, chip my way at the players. Throwing in wee things. What you having for dinner tonight? Or I'm going to Nando's, whatever. Fine, whatever. But you can make your own. Like, here's how to do it. Just give them a quick. We've actually got the Colour Fit app for the boys with Tom Little, which is brilliant. It's excellent. So sometimes we'll just say, look, you can make this, you can make that. And yeah, it's just, but again, it's constantly just chip my way at the players. And I think since we've been really intense with it, we've not had a player in the past 3 years who's not broken through into the first team because they've not been physical enough. Which it was actually the manager that you hadn't really realised. It's not one of those things you probably think about, but it was the manager that said it a few weeks ago before we broke up. It's such a success, like how intense the programme's been for the kids, that we haven't had a player. Okay, we've obviously players that haven't made the grade, but it's not because somebody's not been fit enough, they've not been strong enough. Maybe quick enough's a slightly different thing because there's not really much you can do for a player who's really slow. But not many players that have been like, oh, he was a really good player, but he was too fat. We've not had any of that in the past 3 years as before we had. So hopefully, we keep it going, and we get the next batch coming through. Hopefully.
I mean, that's quite a refreshing stat, I suppose, because I think a few years ago it'd be very different. Not at your club, but just across the board in general about players being released. I think the physical side was definitely something that was lagging behind, wasn't it? And that's quite a refreshing thing to hear, that these players, there are obviously sadly still players that aren't going to make the grade, but for different reasons.
Yeah, I think as well, before it was always like an easy option for some coaches to say, like, they don't want to blame it on, oh, we never got you there as a player, or you're not a good enough player, it's you're not quick enough, or you're not big enough, or whatever. So yeah, maybe the coaches, maybe it's not the case that the programme's been good, maybe it's just the case of the coaches have been a bit more honest. But no, I think it definitely has had an effect. We've also, like, I think through being relentless by pushing the players, we've managed to change the culture. Like when I first came to the club, again, Scotland's probably a few years behind a lot of clubs down south in terms of, because they've not really traditionally had as much sports science support. But like when I first came to the club, it would be like seen as busy. That's the word they used, busy, to go and do extra stuff up the gym. Maybe the one or two boys who want to go up and do, like for the reserve group, want to go up and do a bit extra when they didn't have a session on, and the rest of the boys just to try and slaughter them. So it's now managed to kind of flip that over to the other side, whereas if somebody can't do 10 pull-ups, the rest of the boys are on at them. And it's that we've managed to completely flip the culture a little bit, and that obviously permeates everything. That permeates their diet, their lifestyle, what they're doing away from the club, what they're doing within the club. Are they training with intent? Are they doing things properly? So yeah, it's been a bit, again, it's been a long road. It's not just been a case of, right, okay, we're turning up the day, we've got a good culture now. It just takes time, takes a lot of time and a lot of effort just to kind of chip away at things. So
yeah, no, definitely. I think that's I think we all go in with that mindset, don't we? That we can do it, like you say, do a presentation on nutrition, and then they're all going to walk away and have the perfect diet, be fueled
Right.
perfectly for the weekend. We'll do another one on strength, and then that'll sort that up. And it's not the case, is it? You're right. Like, it's a case of repetition. It's a case of culture comes from repeating these things on a daily basis, and habits as well, isn't it? Like, putting the habits in place with players and you as well, making sure that those habits are carried out. I think the stuff you covered with the players, with the food and the pictures and all that, I think that's they're things you probably do that you don't really realise the impact they have. Like when players leave the club, but for whatever reason, that'll probably be things that they'll carry forward with them, the things that they've learned from those sorts of practices.
Hopefully we like to think that. And it's more about how can we influence people to behave the way we want them to behave. Like, and previously, before, I might have thought, right, okay, well, let's do a scientific project, let's do a poster with like effect sizes and all that sort of stuff, but players just don't care. You can maybe include a little bit of that, because you might have your one or two guys that are interested in it, but it's more about how can you influence people in a positive light. One of the best things I did, actually, probably about 5 years ago, I'd guess, maybe longer than that, as I read How to Win Friends and Influence People, and it's such an important book for probably, I'd say, about 90% of the coaches out there that have all these good ideas in their head, but just can't really find a way of getting people to buy into them. And there's so many simple things in there that you might be doing, but might be doing inconsistently, that is such an important thing to do. That as a coach, coaching's not I think a lot of kind of people, maybe when they first start out, or people in that situation where they struggle to get people to buy into their ideas, is they think that sports science, as in a practitioner's job in football, is about technical knowledge. So it's about, like GPS, knowing all the research behind GPS. It's about weightlifting. It's about, like, what's all your lifting derivatives, getting your UKS accreditation. All these things are important, but coaching's a people business. Coaching is how can you speak to people, and how can you get people to buy into your way of thinking. Not in a nasty way or a manipulative way, but how can you actually go and speak to people and actually get them to really believe your ideas. And that's probably one of the things that I think I've got better at, maybe over the past kind of 6 or 7 years, and it's definitely helped me as much as a practitioner as it has on getting all the basics.
I fully agree, and that book that you've talked about there is one of the top ones for that. And I always think that we've got to learn from people outside of football as well, like people that run businesses and work with like large groups of people. These are people that have to influence people, and when you say influence people, it sounds really bad, doesn't it? But that's essentially what you're doing. You're influencing your players to have these good habits and put these things in place. If you can learn from some of the leaders in the business world or different sports or different industries, then I think we can take habits from other people and apply it to what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Steve Tasjan spoke about that as well, didn't he, on the podcast? It was really good. It's refreshing sometimes when people say that and come up with similar ideas yourself. But one of the other books that I suppose backs up that idea, it's really, really good read, is Range, David Epstein. He's talking about people that aren't just so focused, and I'd maybe get into a little bit of a problem with that before when I was at Motherwell. So I was like S&C coach, so about 95% of my time was spent in the gym, and you end up becoming just a little guy that lives in a cage. It teaches gym exercises, takes a lot of rehab, but you end up thinking this is more important than what it is. And yeah, I kind of realised that. I actually went for a job at another club and kind of missed out on it, and that's the feedback I'd got, that I'd become too specialised almost. You end up living in a little silo, and when that was the feedback, it made so much sense when I got it. And then one of the advantages of coming to Motherwell was I got to kind of almost de-specialise, and I think that's helped me massively as a practitioner as well, is not living in a little silo and having a bigger picture of all the other things that are going on, and even taking out things like for the business world, things for other parts of science that are not really related to football, but just watching other things helps you build up that big range as a practitioner. I think it's another really good book to read, to try and get that thought process in your head. Don't get me wrong, you've got to learn all the basics in the detail at some point, but I think you've really got to kind of broaden your horizons, to help you as a person, really, and a coach.
Yeah, definitely. Because to be in a role like you're in, you couldn't just be a specialist in one area, because it just wouldn't work, would it? Like that, when you're trying to cover all the areas that you do. And I know you joked. I asked about your title beforehand, and I know you joked about having some different jobs that you might end up doing. But you do get put into different jobs in different situations. You have to be able to adapt to those and have the knowledge of those as well, don't you?
Yeah, I think so. I think even looking back, if I was to go back to my time at Middlesbrough, if I was to realise beforehand, I would probably try to do more to be, even just try and change that 95% of the gym to like an 85% of the gym, and try and spend a bit more time at training, or try and spend a bit more time doing other things. Because don't get me wrong, I learned so much. I ended up, like when the boys would be training, I'd be doing loads of rehab, and I learned so much for the physios, and I get some excellent practitioners like Brian English, head of medical, and the doctor, and like Mo's the physio. Learned so much about rehab and stuff through that. But on the flip side, you end up just becoming sat in that little box, and that's what you end up influencing that like 5% of things, rather than being able to influence like a lot more. And don't get me wrong, we had a bigger team at Middlesbrough, so I wasn't expected to go and probably step in people's toes if you were trying to influence everything. But it definitely de-skilled me a wee bit as a practitioner in terms of kind of the bigger picture.
No, definitely, Andy. That's been top, mate. I think there's loads of stuff in there for people to take away and apply to what they're doing in many different roles. I think from like academy roles, there's loads of takeaways, but right up to first team, and obviously tying in with your experience at Borough, but also up in Scotland as well. I think that's been top. So where can people reach out? We talked before about getting people's feedback on any models that they've got in place. Obviously, they can reach out to us, but it'd be great if they can sort of tag you in and reach out to you as well. So where's the best place to do that?
Probably the best place on Twitter. My, was it a handle we call it? Is at Boles85. So that's BOLES 85. And on LinkedIn, it's probably the easiest way to get in touch. From then I can just, we definitely open to speaking to people, whether it's they want to know more about my stuff, or whether they've got some wee ideas of things they've done before. I'd be really interested to speak to more people out there.
Awesome, mate. Well, really appreciate your time coming on, and look forward to hearing people's feedback on the sort of models that they've got in place. If anyone gets in touch, it'd be great to hear from people as well and have a bit of a discussion on it. But really appreciate your time, mate, and hopefully things will be a bit clearer with with the rest of the season very soon.
Yeah, not too sure that's the case, but hopefully.
Hopefully, mate. Well, we'll stay in touch, Andy, and all the best for the rest of the season.
Right, thanks very much, Ben.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you.